The theatrical centre court at Wimbledon, at the moment deserted except for the workmen. Every year Billie Jean comes here before the tournament begins to sit alone and reflect. It's a kind of mystic preparation before the pressures to come. Time to forget the gamesmanship, temper tantrums, and black moments like that Whiteman Cup match with Ann Jones which turned the crowds against her in 1966. Instead, she recalls early days, the sacrifices her father, a fireman, made to help her play tennis. Did you, when you first started playing tennis, were you from a wealthy family?
No. Most Americans are not, which is a misconception to the general public. Most people feel that tennis is just for the wealthy, but anybody who's ever gotten really any good in tennis, especially in this modern era, usually don't come from wealthy families. My family, it was a real struggle for me to stay in tennis. The first tournament, sanctioned tournament I ever played in Southern California was the Southern California Junior Championships. And this when I was 11 and a half years old. See, my parents didn't know anything about tennis. They were basically basketball, football, that type of people who were interested in those particular sports. And so the first time I went to a tournament, my mother made me a pair of white shorts, and they were beautiful. I was immaculate and everything, and I walked in to the Los Angeles Tennis Club, and I felt very uncomfortable. I didn't know what was happening, and I was very shy at that time in my life. And Mr. Jones, Perry T. Jones, who's well known in the tennis world, said, "Oh, now it's time for the photograph of all the young people." And he looked at me and he said, "Oh, you can't be in the photograph because you don't have a tennis skirt on." Of course, my mother's about 10 feet away, who stayed up a good part of the night to have him finish in time. And I didn't really appreciate that. See, to me, that doesn't matter.
What do you have to do now that you didn't have to do when you first won Wimbledon?
When you first start out, when you're very young, people always want you because in the first place you're an underdog. Secondly, you're young, and for some reason Wimbledon just love it. Every time you see a young player here, they go crazy for the young player. And then you get to a point where they seem kind of neutral. Then you get to the point where you're almost winning Wimbledon. And I remember very much in 1966, my first year that I ever won, that the people really were for me. I mean, it got to the point where this was it. They really said, this is the year that they wanted, Billie Jean more or less to win because they thought I had a good chance. And I could just feel the crowd saying, "Come on, come on." And they loved it when I won it. The next year, the absolute opposite. Billie Jean's had her turn, let somebody else have her turn, their turn. And this is just human nature, I think. Although at times I can say, sometimes you just want to tell them that you don't really feel any different as a person. But they're never good. I have to be mature about it and realize that the position I'm in, because people aren't going to change. Because people always associate with their own lives. And most people in life feel they're an underdog. They do. I mean, it's just, all of us think, life's pretty tough at times, and especially people who, have to go to work. They hate to get up in the morning, and they've got 2 or 3 children they have to worry about, and the wife's had a miserable day at home, and everyone feels that they're an underdog, that they're striving all the time. But that one thing most people don't realize is that to stay on top takes 2 or 3 times the work that it ever took to get there. And this is something that most people will never experience in a lifetime.
Do you think it's possible to be both a winner and a good sport?
Yes, I think you can be a good sport. But I tell you, it's something you have to work at, especially in an individual sport. Because if you're in a team sport, you can more or less say anything you want and get away with it because, the attention isn't focused on 2 individuals, say like in tennis or in golf, 1. That's why we have to more or less on our best behavior. In team sports, you can get away with a lot more. In England, this means a lot if you're a good sport. At home, do you win or do you lose? That's all they ask. I mean, I'll tell you, when we're brought up very differently than English people are, or English children. Like an English person will come off the court and they'll say, "Oh, it was a good fight, and you're a jolly good sport," and all that. Well, at home they don't care. If you lose, you're a loser, and that's it. I'm out here to win. I'm not going to walk on the court unless I think I can win. And that's what it's all about. And that's why you play every day of your life. That's why you go through training and go through the heartaches and the ups and downs. That's why anyone does it in any field, I think. I mean, I don't know. I'm happy when I win and I'm not happy when I lose, that's all.